welcome back. This is block 5 of our long-term 20 block knit along of Norah's Vintage Afghan. Check out the pattern down below. If you haven't yet watched the Afghan prep video, you'll want to do that first. And while this is a long-term knit along where we're just doing one block a month, you can jump in at any time. But do watch the Afghan prep video first. I've linked that down below in the video description. So after today, we will be 25% done overall. It seems like we just started, so that's pretty cool. There's some really interesting skills we've learned. The blocks are varied quite a bit, so that's been really interesting. As always, before we get started, I want to express my sincere gratitude to a few of our patrons. These are people that support Purl Together financially and make sure that these videos keep coming to you every single week. So I want to give a big old thank you to Andrea Bedwell, Amanda Windsor, Ada Lay, Bailey B, Ian, and Kay Crowley. Thanks so much for your continued support of this channel. If you'd like to know how you can become a patron and make sure these videos keep coming to you every single week, click the link down below and go check us out on patreon.com, where you pledge a small amount each month, and in trade for that, we do all kinds of things like you have discounts on upcoming events, previews of videos earlier than everyone else, and some other benefits I'm offering as well. So go check that out at patreon.com/Purl Together. All right, let's get started. Just as before with our previous 4 blocks, we started off with 4 rows of garter stitch, and then the 5th row is the knit 1, purl 1, knit 1 all the way across, and then another 4 rows of garter stitch. So now we have our increase row, in which we'll increase from 57 stitches up to 86. We're going to knit 1, make 1, and as before, when I make 1, I'm going to go into the bar with my left needle and then lift that up and then knit into the back loop of that. That's how I'm choosing to make 1 as suggested in the pattern. So knit 1, make 1, and then we're going to knit 2, make 1 27 times. And again, I am choosing not to count the 27 times. Rather, when I get to 2 stitches before the end, my increased row indicates that I'll knit 1, make 1, knit 1. So I'll just go ahead and do that until I get to the 2 in the end, and then I'll double check and make sure that I have the required 86 stitches to carry on. All right, I've double counted that I do in fact have 86 stitches, and now it's time to begin the chart. So as always, you want to make sure to read your chart notes, and we'll be beginning row 1 on the wrong side. So that means we're going to be reading our chart from left to right, repeating. As with all the other squares, you're going to repeat the section in between the red vertical lines the number of times needed. So just be mindful of that, and that we read our chart on the wrong side going from left to right, and on the right side going from right to left. So you're going across and then up and then over and up and over. So if you need a more in-depth review of how to read a chart, I have a link to a video about that down below. So we'll go through this make a knot part. That's going to be new for this chart, knitting through the back loop. And this is simply knitting on the right side, purling on the wrong side, and the reverse is true for the purl. So these are pretty straightforward cable maneuvers that we've done before. These are just 1x1 cables, and I'll show you how we're going to do those without a cable needle this time. So we shouldn't have to use a cable needle really on any of this particular chart. So let's get started. Okay, I think row 1 of the chart is pretty self-explanatory, so you can carry on and do that yourself. We're ready to begin row 2 of the chart, and as before, the first stitch is kind of that alternating knit and purl garter stitch edge, just that very first stitch going up the side, so be mindful of that. And again, on the right side rows, we're reading the chart from right to left as before. So we have a knit and a purl, and then we have our little 1x1 right cross. So slip 1 stitch to the cable needle and hold it in back if you're using a cable needle. If not, you're just going to go in like this underneath the second stitch and pinch that right stitch to hold it while you slip out the left hand needle and then put the left hand needle right back in again. And then you can draw that across, replace it back on the left needle, and simply knit it. So it's just we're just changing positions with those, taking the left stitch over the right. And I'll be sure to show you that again. But now we're just going to do the opposite. So if you're using a cable needle, slip 1 stitch and hold it to the cable needle, hold it in front. And I'm going to take my needle and go into the bottom of the second stitch, pinching the one I'm removing, as if I'm holding it in the front. So basically my thumb is acting like the cable needle, and then put that right back on the left needle. Then I can just knit them. And I've done the same thing there. Okay, so now I'm going to purl one, and then that little icon there means knit through the back loop, so that's easy enough. Just go into your stitch. Instead of going into the front like this, go into the middle of the stitch and just knit into the back loop. All that does is give this stitch a 180-degree twist. So it does open it up and make it a little bit more defined on the right side. Okay. I think that pretty well covers it for the stitches that are new on this row. Row 3 is just knit the knits, purl the purls, with the exception of those edging stitches. And then I will meet you for the red stitch, which is going to be a knot or a bobble. I'll show you how that's going to go on row 4. Okay, when we make this knot, we have to read the directions very slowly and carefully and just do it step by step, take it very literally. This is the 8th stitch on the 4th row where that red square is. So we're going to make this knot, and it says knit in the front, the back, and then the front of the next stitch. So we're going to make 3 stitches out of this one. So we knit into the front, and then we knit into the back, and then we knit into the front again. Okay, so we've just made 3 stitches. We've just created 3 stitches out of 1. And that's the part in parentheses there. And then it says slip these 3 stitches back to the left hand needle and knit them. Okay, so we can slip those back to the left and knit them. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. Okay, now we've knitted those. Then slip the second and first stitch over the third. So this is, we're going to take the 2 stitches here that we knitted at first, and we're going to grab them and pull them up over the first stitch, or the third stitch, I guess. So now we've made this little like knotted cord kind of thing, and now we're just going to carry on, and that's going to be a little bump or a bobble along the way in our knitting, which is going to provide some interesting texture or something for my cat to chew on. I have a cat that likes to chew baubles, so I don't know how tempting that's going to be. We'll have to see how that turns out. Okay, so next we have a 2x2 cable that leans to the right. So we want these 2 stitches to go across the front of these 2 and travel to the right. So slip your right hand needle underneath there. Take out the left one and put it right back in, picking up those other 2 that you were pinching in the back. Okay, swing those around to the front, replace them on the left needle, and then you can just knit across those 4. And again, if you're not comfortable doing that without a cable needle, that's totally fine. Now we're going to go the other direction with it, and these 2 stitches are going to cross over the front of those 2 and travel to the left. So take your right hand needle point and go in under those number 3 and 4 stitches on the left, being careful not to pick up the bottom of those. You can check the back of your work and make sure that you're not accidentally trapping those. Pinch that with your thumb, remove the left needle, and put it right back in, bringing those stitches to the left. Replace everything on the left side, and then you can just knit those 4 stitches across. Okay, we have a couple purl stitches, and then I'll show you that red knot. The knot, again, denoted by that red square. All right, so that knot is going to occur here on this single knit column stitch. All right, knit into the front, the back, and the front again, creating 3 stitches in 1. If you notice, I'm pulling up a little extra yarn just to make it easier. I'm pulling up a little extra when I'm knitting, and I'm making those loops a little more loose than maybe I normally would. Okay, slip these 3 stitches back to the left hand needle and knit them. Okay, Then we're going to slip the first and second stitch over the last one that we made. Okay, and we've made our little bauble. Now we'll have our couple of 1x1 cables and we'll go through those quickly, and then I'll show you the knot one more time on this row. Knit into the front, and see I'm pulling up a little more yarn. Knit into the back and into the front one more time. Take those 3 needles and slip them back to the left hand side and knit them again. All right. Then take the first and second one that you knitted and slip those over the first, being careful not to split any stitches. And we have 2 purls, and then we have our cables that we've already looked at. See how that kind of just goes, that's interesting. It's like a speed bump. Bloop. Okay, not sure I'm a fan of baubles, but we'll see how this is going to turn out. All right, carry on across that row, making sure you're doing the proper number of repeats between the red lines. And then knit row 5. And 6 looks to be a repeat of row 2. So you should be good there. So let's knit through the chart one time and then we'll see how things are looking. Here's how things are looking after my first chart repeat of row 8. So you can see we have the smaller coin cables on the little rows here, little sections there, and then obviously the larger one here. So that's going to be interesting. I don't know, the jury's out on the bauble thing. I'm not sure about the knots. We'll see how it looks when it's blocked. Yeah, I don't know. And with a highly variegated tonal yarn like this, I don't know how visible the knots are going to be. If this was just a straight up solid color, maybe they'd be a little more visible. I don't know. It provides an interesting texture either way. We'll see how it looks when we're all the way through the correct number of chart repeats and the block is done. All right, well done. We finished 8 repeats of the chart plus 1 more run through of rows 1 through 5. So now we're going to do the decrease row, which is just a series of knit 2 together decreases. So start with that first one and then knit 1, knit 2 together all the way across 28 more times, and then double check that you're down to the original 57 stitches. All right, now we're back on the wrong side row and we're going to repeat rows 1 through 9 the same as we did in the beginning. All right, we finished up those last 9 rows and did just a regular bind off. Now we're ready to block it and see how it looks. Okay, that's a wrap for block number 5. I really like the texture of this one. And you know the bauble thing, the little knots kind of grow on me. I don't think they're too sticky uppy to cause my cat to be too interested. I really like the way the block looks and I particularly like the way it feels. So I hope you've enjoyed it as well. As always, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments down below or feel free to join us on the Facebook and the Ravelry groups. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.